Hi, it's Cammy. Charlie talks football.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Charlie Talks Football. So, if you're new around here, make sure to leave a like, subscribe. As always, please try and help us get 2,000 subscribers. We're very close now. I really hope I can hit that, so keep subscribing. But unfortunately, I've not got the best news to bring you guys because, as most of you Newcastle fans know, Newcastle have lost out and have left the race to sign Hugo Ekitike. Now, before I react to it, I'll give you an update of what happened. Basically, Newcastle put in a bid for Ekitike on Monday or Tuesday, I think it was. That got rejected by Frankfurt because they wanted more. And then because Liverpool realised that they couldn't get Isaac because Newcastle told Liverpool that Isaac was not for sale. Liverpool now joined the race for Ekitike. Liverpool submitted a first bid for Ekitike, which was rejected, and now they've submitted a second bid, which is likely to be accepted in excess of around £80 million, which is around the money that Frankfurt want. And David Ornstein's now saying that Liverpool have agreed a 6-year contract for Hugo Ekitike and he's going to join the club. So once again, that's another target that Newcastle have, publicly stated, a player who we've wanted for 3 or 4 years now, and this is a player who once again has rejected Newcastle for the second time and prefers a move to Liverpool. Now, initially, I was furious, and I still am pretty frustrated. I've got over it pretty quickly, but I understand we've signed Alanga, so I don't want to be too critical. But Newcastle tried to get Liam Delap, he went to Chelsea. Newcastle tried to get Cunha from Wolves, he went to Man United. Newcastle tried to get Mbeumo, looks like he's going to go to Man United. Newcastle try to get Ekitike, now he's going to go to Liverpool. I think we've just been a bit slow on transfers, to be honest. I think, we just need to pay the money that, clubs want for the players instead of messing around. And I know what you guys are going to say. You're going to say, well, it wasn't, Ekitike didn't reject Newcastle, it was just because Liverpool came in. And of course, Ekitike is going to probably prefer the Liverpool move to Newcastle because obviously Liverpool have won the Premier League and Newcastle haven't. But I think there's a lot of questions here that need to be asked. I would expect Newcastle to have a big response in the transfer market because of this. But first of all, I just don't think it looks very good on Newcastle's side of things because this is a player that Eddie Howe wanted. Eddie Howe wanted Ekitike. Newcastle have been working on this deal for the past couple of weeks or so. And, when the club makes it public that they're in for Ekitike, it's obvious that Newcastle thought they could get this deal done, and this has not happened because Liverpool have turned their attentions to Ekitike. And I mentioned in my last video what Liverpool did was very clever. They approached Newcastle for Isaac. Newcastle said Isaac was not for sale, so then they went and they advanced on the Ekitike deal really quickly, and it is like annoying as a Newcastle fan. We've got to move on. You can say, rival fans can say I'm being salty, but it's disappointing because you get excited potentially over Ekitike coming to Newcastle. We had encouragement that the player wanted to join Newcastle, and of course, in the end, Liverpool, he looks like he's going to go to Liverpool, and I think Ekitike will definitely be booed by the Newcastle fans. And what I do think there's, going to be an even bigger rivalry with Liverpool in the next few years, especially if Isaac leaves next summer, because I just can't have it. And, I think I just don't really like Ekitike just because he, rejected us twice. It's not a great look for the club. But my message is to Newcastle is that, pay, if you know, apparently we're targeting Wissa, just pay the money that the clubs want for the players. Do not mess around. You know, we've had, you know, my message is, if Newcastle are watching this video, don't mess around. There's been so many times where Newcastle have messed around. We've put bids in for players, you know, even though we've knew that they'd get rejected. And, you know, that gives time for other clubs like Liverpool, for example, to enter the race for Ekitike. So I think once Liverpool was interested, I knew that, you know, it was very unlikely that Ekitike was going to join Newcastle. But disappointing, and Newcastle have been screwed over by Hugo Ekitike once again, and it's terrible for the club because we look like we're a laughingstock to rival fans in the transfer market because of the fact that, you know, we've tried to go in for many transfer targets and all of the time we've been rejected for them. So gonna move on. Looks like Isaac's gonna stay, which is a positive, but I'm not gonna try and, you know, spin this video into a positive video like I've seen other YouTubers do. This is just my opinion. I don't think it's a positive at all that Newcastle have missed out on Ekitike. I know some fans will disagree. I wanted Ekitike at the club. He would have been fantastic, and I'm just annoyed by the fact that we've been rejected by him twice. It just doesn't look good for the club. So I expect a response. Alternative targets, David Ornstein's came out and said that Newcastle is still in the market for a striker. We've been calling clubs in the recent hours for a striker, and Wissa is one of the names, the striker from Brentford, who we're considering. Of course, he had a great season for Brentford. Brentford apparently won 50 million, which is a lot of money for the 28 or 29-year-old. Tottenham are also interested in Wissa. So I think Wissa would be a smart signing. Of course, it isn't as exciting as Ekitike, but this is someone who's Premier League proven. And to score nearly 20 goals for Brentford is a fantastic achievement. But the other option that apparently we're looking at, which has been interesting, is Benjamin Sesko, the striker of RB Leipzig. Now, apparently Eddie Howe's been an admirer of him. We've been linked with him before. We signed Isaac. And of course, Arsenal had Sesko high up on their list, but now it looks like they're going to get Gyökeres instead. So what is your opinion on this, you know, situation, on everything that's going on? Are you angry? Are you frustrated that Hugo Ekitike has rejected Newcastle to join Liverpool? Do you think Newcastle have made a mistake? Do you think Newcastle maybe could have worked harder to get the deal done? Because in my opinion, I think we have worked hard. But like I said before, it's not the best look for the club in Newcastle to miss out on someone we clearly wanted once again. But I think, you know, Sesko's a really interesting option that maybe, you know, Newcastle should consider, because now it doesn't look like Arsenal go for him. The only real team who could be a threat for Sesko is Chelsea, because Chelsea look like they're still going to bring another attacker in the transfer window if Jackson leaves. So what are your thoughts? Again, I was very angry earlier on today. I've calmed down, and I'm just hoping that Newcastle can not be screwed over in the transfer market, because I understand we kept Isaac. It looks like Isaac's going to stay, so that is a positive. But I don't care, you know, about Newcastle fans who will spin this as a positive light. I know we've kept Isaac, but Liverpool have got, you know, are close to signing one of our transfer targets who Newcastle clearly wanted. So we can't pretend that Newcastle didn't want Ekitike. You know, we had bids. We were really trying to you know, sign him, and the fact that this hasn't happened, Eddie Howe will be feeling very disappointing. So if we want Sesko or we want Wissa, please just pay the asking price that the clubs want, because of course, obviously, it depends if the player wants to join. I think Ekitike was always more keen on Liverpool, but I've got to admit, earlier on, I was feeling a bit bitter about the Ekitike situation. I was feeling angry at Ekitike, annoyed, saying we should boo him and stuff. I don't know if we should, but you will understand where I'm coming from, and with the many frustrations. And I'll admit, you know, I try to keep hope on the Ekitike deal. But once Liverpool came in, I knew it would be very, very complicated. So as you can tell, I'm a bit frustrated, a bit sad about this, so make sure to subscribe. We're trying to get 2,000 subscribers. Thanks for the support, guys, and I'll keep you updated if anything changes. But for now, the Ekitike deal is off. Newcastle will not be signing Ekitike. We've left the race to sign Ekitike, and we're moving on to other striker partnerships. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.